The sport of off-road racing is full of incredible stories, wild characters, legends, and even villains. We cover it all on offroadracer.com, but there's only so much we can put down in an article. Sometimes we have to dig a little deeper, and that means sitting down with some of our industry's most influential characters and hitting record. Welcome to the Off-Road Racer podcast, a Mad Media production, made exclusively for offroadracer.com. Each month, we'll go beyond the dirt into the homes, shops, and lives of the most interesting and game-changing icons of our sport. You'll hear about their history, success, failure, and everything in between as we pull back the curtain and reveal the stories of their lives. I'm your host, Matt Martelli, and this is the Off-Road Racer podcast. I'm Matt Martelli. We're here at the Team Real booth at Off-Road Expo. This is the Off-Road Racer podcast, and I'm here with my boy Justin Davis, man. What's up, man?
Good to be here, just down here in Pomona. Our race shop's actually about 15 minutes from here, so it's right down the street, hanging out with Damon and the Rigid guys, and just having a good weekend.
Yeah, you're pre-runner, which is one of my favorite pre-runners, mainly because the windows, right? Well, it's all carbon fiber, too. That doesn't hurt. But the mirrored windows are dope.
Yeah, it came with that. We're like, I don't know if we really want it, but then it was like, people dig it. We're like, screw it. We don't look out the window much, so we're looking forward. We don't look out the side. If I need to look out the side, just roll them down.
But like you could go pre-run and like nobody. I mean, now people know it's your car, but like you'd be like put somebody in there and it wouldn't even be you.
Yeah, we joke like the one guy that during the race we usually chase with it. And if the windows are up, you have no idea who's in that thing.
Yeah.
So we call it like the Batmobile because it's just all low-key, all blacked out with the chrome windows. And for a while, nobody knew who's in that.
Yeah.
And then now everybody knows.
Everybody knows it's Green Army, right? Yeah. But so who'd you buy that one from?
That was from, remember the whole Acer and then we got it from his wife or his girlfriend.
Okay.
They came upon it and we were like, do they want to sell it all? We're like, yeah, we don't know anything, so we'll buy it all.
Nice.
So we had a bunch of that stuff, but
and who built that?
That was an ES truck.
Okay.
And then I don't know who converted it because that was a trophy truck.
Right.
But that got converted to that, so we got it like that. So I don't know who did all the because when you take the body off, it's kind of weird. Like it has like a half of a door, so they use the frame for the door for the windows and all the regulators. So it was a little different, but we've kind of massaged it to make it. Because before, like, we'd only get about halfway through a pre-run and the windows would get stuck because of dirt. So we kind of all fiberglassed it in and made it legit. So, but it's been good. I mean, I have to say it's probably the best pre-runner I've ever had because it just goes.
Nice.
We use and abuse it and it just keeps going.
That whole Acer thing was funny. I don't know where he's at or what's going on, but excuse me, it was definitely interesting. But no, that's cool. I mean, it's always a thing though when somebody builds a truck, whether it's a pre-runner or race car. And then another guy gets in and goes, I'm going to front half it and back half it. And now it's like a weird Frankenstein version. Yeah. And, it's always opinions, right? They're like, oh, now it's better. And you're like, well, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice because, like, we don't have to, like, some of the trucks, you got to take the windows out to get the engine out or even work on it.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a cluster because everything's stuffed in the middle. But unless you're really taking it apart, it's pretty easy to work on. But it's big, like it looks small, but it's pretty built. Like it doesn't really have any issues. It has a V-drive, which sometimes is kind of annoying going down the highway because it sounds like something's coming through the floorboard.
Right.
But in the dirt, you don't notice it. We just get used to it, and we don't like when we pre-run. We don't ever put it on the trailer.
Yeah.
Like we come down here, that thing is going on the highway. We don't care how many miles we put on it. That's what it's here for. We're not towing a trailer everywhere because we all know in Baja, you towing trailers, you're just asking for.
Yes.
Oh, what happened to the trailer? Well, I fell off the road and took the axle off. Or like, no, we have a chase truck that falls. If we have a trailer, then we'll go get it. But most of the time, we're like, well, if we don't have it, we're not going to need it. We'll just keep going.
Dude, that's the way I like doing it. It's just like whether it's a pre-runner, which is the best way to do it, or a UTV, it's like, you drive it everywhere.
Yeah. There's people that tow it everywhere. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
then drive it where you know it's coming home.
Yeah.
If you drive a trailer, then you're like, I can use and abuse it. And then you're like, shit, now it's on the trailer and we got to work on it all night. Like,
Yeah.
I know I don't have no help. So if it's broken, I'm either fixing it or I'm spending the night out there trying to get somebody to help me.
Well, and that's a funny thing. So you're not a big social media guy, and like you're kind of a quiet character, I would say. Like, but you're badass. Like you've earned your way up the ladder system. Your dad and you are OG checkers. Like, talk about how you got started in racing, because you didn't just jump into spec trucks.
No. I mean, it all started. My dad, he was a motorcycle rider and back in the day and did all that. And then he stopped. And then when I was a kid, I played hockey. I never really did anything with racing until I was like 12, 13. And then hockey was kind of over. And it was like, well, we're not going pro. So it was like, we had a good time. We got through high school and all that stuff. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. And then it was like, well, you want to go racing? I said, yeah, why not? So then he started actually racing like a 12 car at the time. Actually, it's funny, the guy that rides with him still rides with me. But so he started going to races, and I used to pre-run with him. I was in the back seat of the Lumacraft and doing miles and miles and miles. And then it's like, okay, here, you and your sister race a 1600 car. And it was a pile of shit. Like, we just took it and, like, didn't prep it, just go.
Yeah.
So then we started with that, and then I raced with my sister for a couple of years in Sportsman and 1600. And then just slowly, then when I was a 12 car, and then we were score champion 12 car with Daniel Foltz. And then it was a 10 car, and we were score champion in that. And then it was the 1 car, and we won a bunch of races in the 1 car. So we've slowly, it wasn't just like, here's a trophy truck, go, figure it out. Like, I've learned from a Volkswagen to a V8, I've pretty much driven every kind of car. So that, in a ways, it helps a lot because, like, even a spec truck now, you still don't have the engine. Like,
right.
They go good, but you better keep your momentum because they're still overweight for your power.
Yeah.
And it's not like you have a 6-speed where you can just put it in first and just go up. It's like, you better keep the momentum or you're going to be buried and digging for a while. So I think just learning from all the classes, it helps no matter what you're in. Even in a trophy truck, you learn in the smaller classes. It just helps you.
Yeah.
Everything just speeds up.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously, anybody can go out and buy a trophy truck now and jump in it, and there's a lot of good builders out there, but you can tell, like the guys who, skipped the ladder, like you can see it in their driving, and then to experience, like they have a problem and it's just like they're done. They're quitting mentally, right? Yeah. They're like, oh man, it's over. And I'm like, what do you mean it's over? It's just a transmission. Let's change it.
Yeah, I mean, we're always been like, we're not, unless we can't fix a truck, we're going to fix it to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. Obviously, you don't want to be back with the Class 11s and you were, 10th overall before you broke, but that's what it is. That's Mexico. When you're in Mexico, it's like we spend all this money to go down there. We're not going to just go home. Like, if we can't fix it, obviously, whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's a transmission or rear gear, we'll get the parts in and we'll just dig deep and finish. And you look like the Terminator when you finish. Got no body on. It looks like you've caught on fire and everything else. And you finish at 4 in the morning. But that's just Mexico. That's why we like going down there. And that's what's cool about off-road racing. It's not like you're on a track and, oh, the race is over. We got a flat and it's done. It's like, no, you just got to keep digging. And it's not over until it's over.
Yeah. Was there a point in your career where you're like, okay, I'm doing this. Like, I'm good at it. I like this. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think, when I kind of got in the 1 car and, you win Volkswagen stuff, but nobody kind of knows.
Sure.
Like, there's guys that are involved with that know, like, oh, that guy's fast. But then, like, when we showed up at Laughlin with our 1 car, and nobody really knew us, and we just showed up and, there was Lettner and all those guys, and they're like, where in the heck did you come from?
Right.
And then it was like, well, I'm racing. At that point, Class 1 was huge.
Yeah, I remember.
I think that year Laughlin, there was 36.
That's crazy.
And we started like 32nd. And when the first day we finished 2nd or 3rd on time. And they're like, where did you? And that car was we shouldn't even finish. The converter was melting. Like, we got on the radio, and we had Croyer at the time. They're like, hey, this thing's overheating. What do you want to do? And Dad's like, just run it. See what happens. So, all right. So we finished. That thing, the CVs were purple. Everything was overheating. It should not have made it. And we finished, and we worked all night to get it right, and we won the whole weekend. And it was like that point I was like, all right, I can compete with some of the best guys in the business. Like, all right, I like this, Because the Volkswagen stuff, it's cool. Like, don't get me wrong. That's where I came from. But then when I raced with the guys that I've looked up to and all these guys racing, I'm like, all right. If I can bait with these guys, I can race with anybody.
That is, I remember that race in Laughlin, and that had to feel really good, because like you said, like you're racing against people, and they're all kind of like, grassroots kind of, and then in those classes, it's like anybody can kind of have a lucky day. But then once you step up to class 1, you're like in the deep end of the pool, and like you said, especially then, and like. It was Lettner. Like, was Andy still in class 1?
No, Andy was gone. But there was Lettner. There was the all German auto guys at the time were going good. Lofton was racing that race.
That's right.
There was quite a bit of one cars. I mean, there was.
Well, there's Valley Performance guys, right?
Yeah, they were racing.
Butch,
there was
Pat Dean,
and pretty much now most of the guys that are in trophy truck were in the class at that time.
Yeah.
And we just went out there and put on a show. It was hairball. I mean, I even knocked my co-driver out at that race.
Oh,
he
really?
was just sitting there flopping his head like, whoops.
Yeah.
But we just kept on going. And like I said, we shouldn't have finished. We shouldn't have done any of it. But we made it, and we won. And we won San Felipe that year. We won we got first, and then I had the 501. And then we kind of got messed up because the trackers weren't that great then. So kind of you really had to pay attention, and Eugenio got me on time. I had a 1, but I slowed down because they're like, oh, you got a huge lead. And then he nipped me on time. And then that was the year we had that San Felipe summer race that was like 120 degrees. And we had a huge lead, and we lost the power steering pump. So we finished 6th, and then we won the 1,000. I sold that 1,000, we won. We missed the overall points by 2. Bryce beat me by 2 points. If I would have finished 2 spots better at that San Felipe race, we would have won the overall championship.
That would have been crazy, right?
So that was the last time even I think Class 1 even came close to overall.
Right.
So, but no, I mean, it was just one of those years. We couldn't do anything wrong.
Right.
It was just you couldn't miss.
Who built that one car for you?
That was a Porter.
That was a Porter.
We bought it. It was you. It was. I don't know if you remember. Remember the one that had the Cameron Diaz like on the hood?
Oh yeah.
It had that wicked paint job.
Yeah.
That was the car.
Yeah.
And then we bought it, and it never raced before. We went testing actually with the guy that owned it before, and we were going to race Laughlin together, and then I drove it. My dad's like, screw that. We're just going to buy it and race ourselves.
Right.
So then we bought it and literally just took it to the track. And then that was, like I said, that was the year we couldn't miss.
Yeah.
Everything just went perfect. And there's just some years you do everything right and nothing goes right. Like this year, it didn't matter what we did, something went wrong.
Yeah.
And you just shake your head like, we didn't do anything different.
Well, it's interesting because, like, there's a lot to be said. I was just talking to your dad about this, about buying race truck platforms that are championship platforms, right? And not to talk ill of anybody, because like it's hard to build these vehicles, and the amount of variables is pretty incredible, right? And it's funny because being a promoter, we're going through it with rules and looking at everything, and I'm not the most technically proficient person, but I've learned everything from breaking stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh yeah, now I can look at stuff. Things engineers go, yeah, we've tested this in the computer and it's going to be great. And I'm like that ain't gonna we're going to hit a rock the size of a TV, and that thing is going to break into a million pieces. And they're like, no, we've FEA tested it in the computer. And it's the same thing with race vehicles. It's like when you have a platform that's proven and it's figured out, that's where you got to start. Because if you're not,
it's hard.
You're chasing.
You're doing so much work to keep up.
Yeah.
Like then you can do it. Like we've done it with a lot of cars, but it just gets wearing.
It's interesting too because everything's changed and evolved, and now there's a lot of race builders, a lot of race car builders that are really good. So it wasn't like the old days where there's like 2 or 3, and there was probably another half a dozen guys who were good at prep. Now it's a lot better now. But even still, like I see these guys, buy cars or, my brother has this saying, it's the, Billy Bob Two Nuts, right? It's a prep guy, right? And I'm like, never heard of him. And I'm like, chances are, if I haven't heard of him, he didn't come from some sort of lineage, right? There's a lot of smart guys out there.
A lot of them come from, they're like, oh, this guy came from that guy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, now I know where he came from.
Right. But it's crazy. It's like super frustrating. I went through it with the McMillans where they spent, God, probably $1 million trying to, get this mid-engine Robbie truck to work right. And it was like the, engine guy was pointing at the suspension guy and the drivetrain guy. And I'm like, I didn't even know what the hell was going on, but I learned a lot from it. You've proven that you can win. And I know in talking to your dad just a minute ago, you guys have a new truck coming. How excited are you about that?
I'm super excited. We raced the last 2 races. We've actually raced somebody else's Tisco, and we've been leading both races, the 500 and the 400. We've been right there with McNeil. Everything's good, and then we just had, just things happen. But it was like, okay, now I've gotten in the truck where it's like, I've never really even driven the truck, and we're right there leading.
Yeah.
Like then with no test time, basically just, here, Justin, go drive this.
Yeah.
So then it was like kind of relief. I was like, okay, it's not like I don't got it anymore. I still got it.
Were you doubting yourself?
I kind of got to a point where nothing went right. Like nothing went right. And it was just like, people would catch me. I'm like, that guy never could catch me ever.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on? Maybe it's like, maybe I'm just slowed down, or maybe I just suck now. And then I got in the new truck and it was like, oh, now. And I'm like, I didn't do anything different. I didn't change my driving. I didn't change anything. And we've went from, trying to do everything to stay in front of him. And then it's like, oh, I just caught him without really doing much different or even trying less. So it was just like, okay, this is what we need. Like, I'm tired of fixing trucks and changing things. I want one where I just get in it, adjust the shocks, do a couple little things, and then go race it.
Yeah.
And it seems like with John and Tisco, that way, it just seems like that truck and me are just good.
John Vance, a pretty good friend of mine, and I like him a lot as a person, as a builder, because he is very, I don't even know, focused. That's maybe not the right word, right? But, he, spent a lot of time at Jimco. And then when he went over to Tisco, it wasn't necessarily like, hey, I want to get rich, because you don't get rich making race cars, right? But it was like he wanted to implement these things that he saw that he thought were, needed improvement. And he did. And they build really good cars. And they also do really good support.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about, John, is that, he's like not a student. He's like a master of the game. Like,
yeah, he's been around and seen everybody's things.
But he's into it. Like, he's one of the few guys who calls me and, like, we'll just talk. We'll, like, nerd out on, like, pit strategies and different race car builds and the business of building race cars and stuff like that. And he's really passionate about it. And so, when you get a guy like that, who's going to build a vehicle for you that's just unbelievable, that's good. That's a game changer. You know what I mean?
I mean, what's funny is my dad, John, actually prepped my dad's and Andrew Way's 10 car when they won the score points overall. And my dad forgot, because he's like, I haven't seen John in a long time. And this was a few years ago. And he's like, and then John's like, hey, you do remember I prepped your car when you guys won the overall championship. He's like, oh, shit, I forgot.
That's pretty cool.
So, we've known John for a long time, and we've always wanted to get in his truck, and it just didn't work out. And, we finally got the opportunity. I got to drive one. I'm like, yeah, I'm just sold on it. Like, whether it's the greatest thing ever or it's the same as everybody, it's like me and that truck are good. So I'm like, that's the one.
It's funny because, like, I've been fortunate to drive a lot of trucks and to ride in a lot of trucks with really good drivers. And so, and I continue to do that because I always want to know. I don't want somebody to tell me, oh, yeah, it feels like this. I'm like, I want to get in it and I want to feel it. And I want to be able to compare it to, like, a Geyser, a Tisco, a Jimco, the trucks that I've been in, a Mason, right? And I've only ridden once in a Tisco. I've never driven them, but dude, they build really good trucks.
Yeah, no, John does a great job, and we're super excited. We're going to get ready to race. I think we're going to come to the Parker your guys' Parker race and debut the truck, and I think it's going to be a good one. I think we got the right truck now, and I think it's going to come around for next year.
Dude, I'm excited because, again, it's like one of those things where, like, if you're able to take somebody with, with your level of talent and put them in a race-winning vehicle, I know what the results are going to be,
Yeah, it wasn't that our last truck was bad. It just didn't work out. There's just some cars that just, I don't know. Maybe it's the truck, maybe, because we always say sometimes some cars are bad luck, and it doesn't matter what you do. I don't care how good you prep it. They just don't finish, or they don't have problems.
100%.
So we just looked at it like we got to change it up, and we know this truck is a winning truck. McNeil obviously has been dominating score in the same truck. And we're like, okay. And then we went and raced it, and we're racing with him, and we're on time with him. So I'm like, okay, now we have the right truck, and we have the right team. We have all the pit support. We do everything right. We just couldn't get the truck to do what it needed to. So now we're pumped.
So, you hit that point in your career where, you're like, okay, I can do this. I'm good at this, right? But also, your dad's into this, right? And it's this funny thing that happens between fathers and sons where it's like you hope your kid is into what you're into. You hope he's not like, hey, Dad, I want to go be a whatever, right? Mm-hmm. That's opposite, right? What's that done for your relationship between you and your dad?
Oh, I mean, obviously we go spend, weeks upon time in Mexico and have a good time. And, yeah, we'll fight. It's father and son. We bicker and, no, this is right. No. But, during the race, I mean, he's everywhere. Like that tan Raptor that you'll see, I don't know how it's even in still one piece, but he's everywhere. And, we've done it for so long now. It just comes hand in hand. He knows where we're going to be. I know where he's going to be. And it's like second nature kind of thing where it's like, I know where he's going to be. You don't even have to tell me, okay, I know where he's going to be.
Yeah.
So, and it's great. We spend a lot of time together and it's just a good time.
And now you're dad, right? You have 2 kids?
Yeah, I have 2 sons.
Right.
Yeah, so it's crazy. I mean, they both love trucks. They call them monster trucks. But my son's Axel and Ford, and they're into it already. I'm like, I'm in trouble.
I was watching them over there in your pre-runner, and one of them had figured out the shifter, and I'm like, that's costing you money right there.
Yeah, they love it. They come to the races, and they're in Mexico, and they chase us around, and they know all the trucks, and they know when Dad's coming and all that. But it's pretty cool. It's special to bring them down there and just to get to experience what I did when I was their age.
Yeah, I mean, what a magical childhood. Talk about that for a second of you growing up.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't really do much race because my dad stopped. Like, after he won the overall thing in 98, it was just kind of like he went to business and just kind of stopped. And then I played hockey, so we didn't really do anything. We just, had a good childhood. We just did a lot of cool things and traveled. And then, like I said, out of high school and all that, we're like, let's go racing. And then it just kind of spiraled out of control. And now, my brother does it. All my family's involved. Everybody's at the races. So, like they say, family race together, stays together. I mean, we bicker and fight, but all in all, it's all
family,
good. Oh, yeah.
Right?
So we just come to work on Monday, and everybody just either deals with it or we don't really care because you don't have a choice.
Yeah. No, that's funny.
Attention Off-Road Nation. The Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship comes roaring through Parker, Vegas, and Barstow in 2024. It's 3 of the most prestigious and competitive off-road races in the sport. It all starts with the return of the Parker 400 in beautiful Arizona, January 10th through the 14th. Then it's the biggest, baddest, most grueling off-road race on the planet. The BF Goodrich Tires Mint 400 comes roaring back into Sin City, Las Vegas, March 6th through the 10th. And finally, the climactic conclusion of the Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship, the California 300, returns to Barstow, October 2nd through the 6th. Visit UnlimitedOffRoadRacing.com for complete details. The 2024 Unlimited Off-Road Racing Championship is here.
Has there been a race win that you've had that's been something that you're like, okay, like that was badass?
I think probably, obviously I've sold a couple 1000s and won, so that was obviously cool. But I think it wasn't even that I even drive very good. It was 1,000 we won. I won with my brother and Tyler Peterson, who rides with my brother sometimes. I finally got to win one with my brother, like a 10-car rate. We won the 1,000. We dominated that. Well, we were losing. Like I said, I got stuck. It was one of the worst times I ever had. Just nothing went right. I had no brakes. I was just kind of feeling down on myself, like, fuck, I really screwed this one up. Like, they put me in the worst section, knowing that, hey, Justin will get it through and do a good job.
Right.
And I was just bummed. I was stuck like 3 or 4 times, had to get pulled out, stuck in a rain rut because of UTV, because we lost brakes, and I was behind. And I'm like trying to make up time, but I forgot that I only had 3 brakes. I come down this hill and a UTV like crashed in a rain rut, and I locked up the brakes, but then it slid sideways and fell in the rain rut. So I'm sitting like this, and I'm by myself. I'm like, this is bad. And then somebody came in a pre-runner and pulled me out. So I was like, okay, Justin, you're done with that. Just get it out of there.
Right.
And then I got stuck again because there was another guy that was stuck. Just one of those races. I was just like, get to Valley Teen, I'm over it.
Right.
Like, I'm sure I'm doing terrible, and they're going to let me know I'm doing terrible.
Right.
And I get out. I think we're like 3rd or 4th. They're like, oh, you did good. I'm like, no, I did not. I was doing terrible.
Right.
But here you go. And then Tyler got in and did like the whole San Felipe loop, and the leader, I forget his name. What's the guy that has a teal? Warren Brothers.
Okay.
They were kicking it. They were smoking us. And I'm like, unless he has an issue, we are not beating him.
Right.
And then we're coming through San Felipe after the loop, coming back, and I look down the road and I see his lights, and he's broke. I'm like, well, we'll see if he gets it fixed. And he didn't. He lost I think his pulley fell off or something. So then we're like,
Chase Warren.
Yeah, so we're second. I'm like, there's no way. So then my brother gets in, and we're second car, still like 15 minutes down. Not, I think, 30 minutes later, Jeremy gets on the sat radio. I passed the leader. I'm like, okay. And then he made it around. Then we had no brakes. The brake pedal was screwed up. We had no brakes. The only thing that worked was like the turn brake.
Right.
So he got over the summit, and he got through all the Valley T, and I'm like, well, he's like, what do I do? I'm like, just use the transmission at this point and use the turn brake. Like, that's just what you got to do. The guy behind you is having problems. We're both having problems. Just make it.
Right.
And he babied it in, and we won by, I think, like 20 minutes. But it was cool just to be, like, I won one with my brother, and, like, it wasn't the greatest race, but we just, like I said, we kept at it.
Yeah, you stayed
We
in
kept
it.
working at it, and it wasn't pretty, but we got it done, and we won. So that was pretty cool. You know, like, you win, like, I won one by myself, but that's like, yeah, it's cool, but it's not, you know, like winning with your brother.
Yeah, you don't get to share it.
No. And, like, yeah, most of the time it's like, yeah, Justin, you won. Yeah, I did it myself, but it's like, Like, it's cool, don't get me wrong, but it's not like winning with your family member.
No, it means way more. You know, you've won a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
What do you feel like you have yet to accomplish? What do you need to win?
Well, I always joke that only 2 races I've never won is Parker and the Mint. I've won every single race. I have won the 500. I have won the 1,000 5 times. I've won every race. I've come second at the Mint 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
I've gotten a 4th, a 5th. I even joke because the only time I ever, like the best I ever got in the Mint was in a 1600 car with my sister and Ralph Chadwick, which I'm sure you met. Yeah. We've lost by like 10 seconds or 15 seconds. I always tell him, you know what, we lost because you went too slow. And he says, no, I made up all the time.
Yeah.
But that was the only 2 races. I always say a joke. I say, if I win the Mint, I'm just quitting. I'm retiring. I've won them all. I don't need to win anymore. But those are the only 2 races. I don't know what it is, but those 2 races have just plagued me.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to change that next year.
Yeah, that's good. I'm excited for you. I'm glad you're getting into a championship winning car. You know, it's a weird thing. It's like I almost feel like there should be this like, you know, drive day where all the builders, you know, we go out, pick a spot, and let everybody drive each vehicle so that they can see the differences and see the preferences. Because I think a lot of drivers get held back by the vehicle, right? And a lot of it's money, you know, like they go, oh man, I can't afford that, and you know, I'm gonna go with this guy that built this car or whatever. And you know, again, not to diminish or talk bad about, you know, the guys who haven't built 20 trophy trucks, but like the guys who have figured some stuff out.
Yeah, there's just, I mean, a lot of, like, some people love this truck, and I'm like, I don't like that truck, but you drive this truck. It's just something, everybody's driving style is different.
Yeah.
Some people like, I need the truck that just goes straight really good and really soft and goes through the bumps. But I'm like, I could care less how that thing rides. If it turns, I mean, like when you race Mexico, it's turning.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, you might be the fastest down Zero, but you didn't win because you went the fastest down.
No, you didn't corner.
It's like, okay, we looked at all the trucks and like, it seems like the Tisco, okay, people say, well, it doesn't ride as good in the bumps. Like, you can adjust shocks, you can adjust things, like, but again, I come from a buggy. Like, if I get beat up, I don't really care.
Exactly.
I want the truck that goes from point A to point B and the fastest in the turns because that's where the races won.
Well, it's funny because Larry Ragland explained it to me years ago. He goes, Matt, the off-road racing is broken down into a million races, corner to corner, right? And you've got to win each little piece of that, consistently, and then you win the race. And I'm like, man, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's not a drag. It's not a drag race where they're like, oh, well, my truck goes fast. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't turn.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. You went down Zoo Road at 120 and it was floating, but it's like it didn't win the race there.
Yeah.
There's so many other variables to win that race.
Looks really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for film. It
Yeah.
looks cool, but
Yeah.
it's like that's not reality of racing in Mexico. Like, it doesn't matter how.
Well, or anywhere. I mean, when you look at even in the States and like our race, the California 300, like there's a lot of technical stuff in that. But it's not, you're not going to win it in just the flat out stuff,
No.
So no, it's interesting.
So that's why we looked at the Tisco, because it's shorter than most trucks. It's
Yeah.
narrower than most trucks. It's smaller. But I was just like, this truck, I've driven a lot of short 10 cars. And a lot of the race cars I had were always kind of short wheelbase. So I was like, okay, this truck kind of fits me more. Because some people are scared of the shorter wheelbase. They're like, oh, this. I'm like, I'm comfortable in a short wheel. I used to drive a 10 car that was 103 inches long.
Yeah.
Like, I understand how a short truck works and a car works. So I was like, it just fits me. And like everything that I wanted in a race car, it did.
Yeah.
Like how it turned and how it did this and the body roll. And I'm like, that's the race car that I like. Like, it just does everything. And now there might be someone else that go, this truck's better. Maybe. But for me, that seemed to be the truck that fit my style.
Sure.
So that's why we just
I think the preference is there's a lot. It's funny. It's like I had Mia Chapman earlier and we were talking about she just bought a Can-Am. And Can-Am builds a hell of a car. I just don't like the seating position. Like, I like to be up a little bit higher. I like the visibility. I don't like to sit back and low. That's just my preference, right?
Yeah.
I think they build amazing cars, but like me,
Everybody's different.
yeah, I like, I like the Pro R, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's really cool. So, what do you, obviously those races, but like, what are your plans here in the near future?
I think next year we're just going to really focus. Like I said, we're going to probably do Parker in the Mint and then just score and just see kind of like we got the new truck, got a lot of things that we're going to work on and just see how this year goes or this next year coming up and just really focus on those races and just trying to dominate every race. And then that way next year the following year we can kind of see what we want to do. But I think next year we just want to focus on those races and just try to know that we can dominate. We've dominated every class. Like, it's nothing new. We know how to do it. It just hasn't come all together.
Yeah.
And I think it's coming. I mean, like I said, we've worked countless hours in the shop trying to figure out converters and transmissions and all the stuff that comes with the truck, where when it comes to the race and you do get them all together and everything is working perfectly, you're like, wow, where'd that truck come from? Why is that truck so fast? Is it cheating? No, we just spent hours and hours in trying things.
Yeah.
You just can't inspect. You have to play with things because you don't have any power.
Right.
They're already overweight. So you got to try to find every little bit you can to try to just get that little bit of edge. Like, you're on the lake bed. Oh, well, my truck goes 2 miles an hour. You don't think 2 miles an hour. You're like, that's nothing. But in a while, you're like, wow, that makes a big difference. Like, even in the speed zone in Mexico. Like, we had at the last race, the speed limiter wasn't right. And it would only do like 36. Well, we get caught on the speed zone. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, listen, I am on the chip. And that 1 mile an hour over that short period of time, you get caught.
Yeah.
So just like all those little things you wouldn't think about. You're like, that's stupid. You don't need to worry about that. But it all adds up.
Yeah. Inches. You've
And
got.
there's, you race 500 miles and it'll come down to 30 seconds.
Yeah.
The last year's 1,000, we got second. Us, Herbst, and McNeil were all within a few minutes.
Yeah.
And that was 1,000 miles. So you can barely have a flat in this race. I mean, we had no issues in that race. Perfect race. We had no flats. We had an alternator. The wire screwed up, so we couldn't run all our lights. So we're trying to drive with a 30-inch bar, which rigid. The bar worked, but it was just like, that's not enough light. I mean, over 100, it's just like, you need more light. I don't care whose lighting company you got. You need more than one bar.
Right.
So we struggled a little bit, and we were still there, but McNeil got in the Coastal truck, and Jeremy got in, and we just couldn't keep up. And I don't expect Jeremy to race with McNeil on it's like the first time driving the truck. Here, Jeremy, go beat McNeil. But
McNeil's good.
So,
man.
he lost by 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I said, You did great, dude. There's nothing, but I mean, that's how these races, we had no issues, and we lost by 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Where there's some races, you look at some classes, they don't have issues, you win.
Yeah.
You don't have any issues, you won the race by a mile. And this
Yeah.
race, we didn't have any issues, and we lost by 5 minutes.
Nice.
So that's just, like,
yeah, it speaks to the level of competition.
the last 2 1,000s, we've had really no issues, and we've gotten second.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like this year, we're hoping to change that around. So
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I always love seeing guys who are badass drivers in the right vehicle so that they can really shine and perform. So, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you out at Parker slinging.
Yep, we'll be there.
All right. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, bud.
All right.
Racing against your dad is something that 90% of the racers in the world will never get.
I've accomplished everything I wanted to do, and now he's just like taking the reins. I want to be remembered for being a huge part of short course, not just racing, keeping it alive, helping it grow. If it comes down to the last weekend and I'm in it, the boys better watch out.